I want to ask you about something that I think is on a lot of Republicans' minds. This election could come down to less than 50,000 votes in 3 states. Abortion was on the ballot in 6 states in 2022. Republicans lost all of them. Next year, abortion will likely be on the ballot in Arizona. That is a must-win state. Governor DeSantis, how are you going to win over independent, pro-choice voters in Arizona?
Same way we did in Florida. We won the greatest Republican victory in a governor's race in the history of the state, over 1.5 million votes. We were winning places like Miami-Dade County, Palm Beach, that nobody thought was possible because we were leading with purpose and conviction. I reject this idea that pro-lifers are to blame for midterm defeats. I think there's other reasons for that. The former president, he's missing in action tonight. He's had a lot to say about that. He should be here explaining his comments to try to say that pro-life protections are somehow a terrible thing. I want him to look into the eyes and tell people who've been fighting this fight for a long time. My wife and I earlier today were at the gravesite of President and Mrs. Reagan, and I noticed that there was a quote where it says, "Every single person has purpose and worth." We're better off when everybody counts. And I think we should stand for what we believe in. I think we should hold the Democrats accountable for their extremism, supporting abortion all the way up until the moment of birth. That is infanticide, and that is wrong.
So listen, I like Ron DeSantis. I think that's a great answer. Home run to the question, for sure. And I appreciate him and his pro-life position. He's articulate on the issue, much more in some ways than President Trump. Here's the difference between him and President Trump. President Trump is not an ideologue. President Trump is a pragmatist. President Trump is willing to compromise, and he treats issues like abortion like he treats anything else, like the border or Ukraine war, what have you. He is about making the deal, right? He's the art of the deal. That was the name of his book. And so he treats abortion as any other issue. And pro-lifers don't like that. And I understand it. I don't particularly like that because abortion's unlike any other issue. But the guy wants to get elected. And that's how he got elected in 2016. And so to get elected, according to Donald Trump, you're going to have to make some compromises and concessions on abortion. We don't like that. I don't like that. But that's probably the reality. You can disagree with that if you wish, but that's how it is with him, no doubt. Now, the other thing is he's the nominee. People need to get over this. These debates are, in my opinion, interesting to watch sometimes, a little bit nauseating, to be honest, and frustrating. But they have absolutely no value, per se, in the selection of our nominee this time around. And that's because Donald Trump is winning by 40 points over these people. I mean, Ron DeSantis is polling at 13%. Do you think he's going to eat away at the Donald Trump vote in the Republican Party enough to get the nomination? None of these people are. So we need to, as pro-lifers and conservatives and Christians, understand the political reality, and that is Donald Trump is the nominee for the Republican Party. Whether you like it or not, whether you like his positions on abortion or not, he is the man, and we've got to get over it, and we have to live with him. That means, in my view, since he's going to be the nominee, we get behind him. Now, that doesn't mean we can't nudge him and hopefully persuade him to be a little more articulate on abortion and to take stronger stands like Ron DeSantis does. But we got to be living in the real world, friends, and that is that Donald Trump is the nominee. And keep in mind, Donald Trump overturned Roe v. Wade. No other way to look at it. He did. He put 3 justices on the Supreme Court, and they overturned Roe. And that will forever put him in a different position than any president in history. He is huge, and we owe him a debt of gratitude for that. When given the opportunity, Donald Trump will probably do the right thing on abortion because he's a pragmatist. He knows who his friends are. He knows who his enemies are. And then finally, keep in mind, the president of the United States has a limited role on abortion. There's a couple things the president can do. Number one, he uses the bully pulpit, the bully pulpit. Donald Trump may or may not do that to the degree we would like it. Ron DeSantis would probably be better at that. But the bully pulpit is what the president can use to change public opinion, number one. Number two, the limited role of the president. That means he can affect the executive branch by signing executive orders that affect the abortion issue and save lives. That's number two. But and number three, again, we understand this because the U.S. Supreme Court still has a role on this. We don't want to lose the court to the pro-abortion advocates, so that when the Supreme Court has a vacancy, the president still has that prerogative, that authority to nominate someone to the U.S. Supreme Court, and that's not changing. So we want to hold our majority. The president can have something to do with that, of course. And since we've overturned Roe, we don't want it to flip the other direction. So it is important that the president have a role, and it's important that we elect pro-life presidents. But, I mean, his influence is limited now. It's different than what used to be because for now, for better or for worse, and I would say for worse, it's at some level, is that it's a state-by-state issue. Eventually, we have to solve this at the federal level. But right now, we're battling within the states, and that is the way it's going to be for the foreseeable future. Therefore, states like Ohio matter, and states like Arizona, as the moderator said, that matters too. And we need to be able to weigh in on those things. But friends, we need to take a deep breath here and realize that Donald Trump is not an ideologue on abortion. You may not like it. I don't particularly like it. But the man wants to get elected, and he's got good political instincts. And when he says he wants to soften his view, or he says that, you know, the restrictions on abortion are terrible, it's terrible. It's hard to hear as a pro-life activist, for sure. But let's not weaken the nominee. He's going to end up being the nominee for the Republican Party, and we need to be careful on how we criticize him publicly. So that's my take. I'm a fan of Ron DeSantis. I think Ron DeSantis will make a good president, just not in 2024 because Donald Trump's going to be the nominee.